everybody. Welcome to a special 2018 Los Angeles Auto Show episode of Talking Cars. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Keith Barry.
And I'm Gabe Shanhar.
So while we were here at the LA Auto Show, we had a little meetup with some of our Talking Cars podcast fans, and we had a great time last night. It was really great to meet them.
Great, yeah.
And we're hoping to do more of these in the future. So thank you for coming. Now, why don't we get to talking about some cars here at the show? So guys, we spent the last couple days attending press conferences and checking out all the latest and greatest cars revealed here. And I kind of got a little bit of a David and Goliath theme. You know, there was a lot of small fuel-efficient cars, but also some, pretty big SUVs and even a Jeep pickup. Is that a fair assessment, Gabe?
Yeah, it's pretty much small cars, and then it's all the way up to large SUVs and expensive high-end cars.
Yeah.
So you're right.
So let's start with the small cars, and let's start with the Toyota Prius, redesigned, and also, it's one of our favorite hybrids and a very popular hybrid. But the one thing people have been asking for that Toyota hadn't delivered on was all-wheel drive. And this new one has all-wheel drive. Keith, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
You've had Priuses in the past. You're a big fan of the Toyota Prius. What do you think of the new car?
Well, I think that the main thing that they changed on it was the design. And, regardless of what the market is for small cars, for cars that aren't crossovers, for fuel-efficient cars, and we know that's slow selling, they're definitely, the last design was polarizing. I happen to like it, but I realize I was, in a group of one.
Right.
So I think all-wheel drive. Two?
You liked it as well?
Yeah, and
Okay.
every time we drive behind a Prius at night, particularly.
Especially the Prime.
Yeah, the Prime. It
my
reminds
wife
me of like
says,
the
those
59
taillights
Impala.
have got to go, and I
I
argue
like
with
it.
her. I like it.
But the new one, I think your wife is going to like it. I think aside from us, the other 98% of people out there are going to like the look of it more. All-wheel drive helps.
Right.
Always get snow tires. The one thing about it that I think is a big omission for 2019 is no CarPlay, no Android Auto, and that's big. I think that's especially when you have so many other strong hybrids out there, plug-in hybrids and EVs, that it's just enough to get people to think of something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabe, what do you think about the new Prius?
I think I'm a little sad to see the avant-garde styling being toned down, but I think all-wheel drive is a thing that they needed for a long time, especially in our area in the snow belt, particularly with the upfront torque of the electric drive that makes driving in snow, especially like on a curvy uphill, really tricky with the current Prius.
But it's still supposed to get, they say, 50 miles a gallon. So it would, make it the best fuel economy of any hybrid all-wheel drive in the U.S.
Very possible.
Yeah.
We'll see when we test
We'll
it.
see.
I mean, I would expect a drop of 1 or 2 mpg overall.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's stay with Toyota and talk about the new Corolla. We've already tested the Corolla hatchback, which was kind of the precursor to the Corolla sedan. The Corolla sedan currently tops our small car ratings. Tell us about this new Corolla, Gabe.
So the new Corolla is based on Toyota's current architecture, what they call the TNGA, Toyota New Global Architecture. It shares it with a lot of models like the RAV4, the Prius as well. Anyway, that platform is more substantial.
You really liked it when you drove the hatchback, right?
Yeah, the hatchback drives really nicely.
It handles great.
The handling, the brake feel, the steering, all of that is really nicely dialed in. I would hope, though, that the sedan doesn't ride as stiffly as the hatchback,
Right.
and that it doesn't sit so low that getting in and out is such a pain.
And is the big news the hybrid? It's basically the Toyota Prius architecture, underneath the Corolla body.
Yeah, it's the same electric drive from the Prius, and that was a long time coming too, because in other markets, Toyota had been offering the Corolla or under any other name as a hybrid as well. So it's about time. And plus, you're not gonna, Honda and Toyota compete so closely. So if Honda has a Civic hybrid, which is now
Insight.
Yep. Exactly, then Toyota it's a must for Toyota to have a Corolla hybrid.
All right, let's move on to the new Mazda 3. Redesigned and, as before, still a sedan and a hatchback. And let's start with the styling first, because I think we've got a little disagreement here. I love the new hatchback
I love
styling.
disagreement.
I know you do. I love the way the new hatchback looks. I think it looks fantastic, but I believe you guys aren't quite, I'm out on Monty's Island on this one.
Have you sat in it?
I have.
Have you sat in it? How was the rear visibility?
I only was looking ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it's going to feel like.
Yeah. It does have a big
little
seat pillar.
tunnel
No
vision,
question,
yeah.
there's a big seat pillar.
It's
Yeah.
more like a I can't see pillar. Hi-oh.
For the record, I usually like the hatchback versions almost in everything, but this time, in this case, with the 3, I think the sedan looks so much better, very elegant, very uncluttered, with
Right.
flowing lines, not needing any design cliches of all kinds of weird shapes that don't really gel into anything. But the hatchback, there's something from certain angles, especially from rear 3/4 angle, something off about it. That's chunky
I like
seat
it.
pillar
I like it.
and that narrow rear window.
Let's
There's
move on from
something-
styling real quick and talk about what Mazda's trying to do with this 3. They're trying to move it up market. They're saying that they think it's a car that can bridge the gap between regular compact cars and entry-level luxury cars like the Audi A3. Gabe, do you think it's got a chance of doing that?
On the merits of the car, probably. I mean, the Mazda 3 has always been a little bit more of an upmarket kind of car, and in the compact arena. And if they succeed in transforming it to a very substantial, quiet, comfortable riding kind of a car like they did with the freshening for the Mazda 6, it has a chance. But after all, in the real world, we know that brand plays a major role. So
Right.
if you want an Audi, you want an Audi. You're not
Right.
going to look at a Mazda.
True.
Are there enough people out there to buy a sedan? That
you know
we're
what?
Gonna,
That was one of the things that Mazda told us yesterday. They said, we don't mind taking some of the people who, won't be able to buy certain Ford and General Motors
Cruise,
sedans anymore.
yeah.
We'll take them over to us. Real quick, Skyactiv X mild hybrid is coming, but not when it first comes out. For now, it's just going to be a single 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with 186 horsepower.
Pretty much a carryover of the current car.
Exactly.
and
but
the
you
diesel
can,
is supposedly coming too, right?
well, they won't talk about that,
Okay.
and still, and you
Not
can
for the
still get a
US.
6-speed manual transmission. So let's move on to stay with the small cars. Kia Soul and Kia Soul EV redesigned versions were unveiled here. Keith, what do you think of these cars?
Yeah, so I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with them. It's still definitely a Kia look. I think people buy the Soul because it feels practical, but it's a little funky. It's it's not feeling like I'm buying the thing that checks off all the right boxes. It checks off all the right boxes, and it also gives you a little bit of a personality. And they really leaned on that heavy in the press conference. I mean, they gave it mood lighting, they gave it a bunch of different trim levels, but those are the things that make a car kind of feel special. It makes it feel like your car. And
What about the guinea pigs?
well, I think they're hamsters, and I think they're gone.
Yeah.
I think they're gone. We're the guinea pigs who test these things out. The one good thing about it is that we had some issues with fuel economy and acceleration,
Right.
especially with the base engine.
Right.
That engine's gone.
Okay.
They've given it a little more power. They've given it a different transmission. They've gotten rid of that 6-speed automatic, which is a little antiquated. They've also brought out a new Soul EV that's supposed to get around 230 miles on a single charge. So depending upon the price in those,
Right.
I think it's going to be a real cool competitor for
Right.
people who would have otherwise maybe bought a taller crossover.
And that range is key because we've hit this point where if you're not 200 plus miles of range, there's really no bother even bringing the car out. So at least they have apparently legitimate range.
I mean, combined Hyundai Kia, they have like a 3-pronged attack on the EV market with about 230, 240 mile range. One is a Kia Soul EV, then the Niro EV, and then it's the
Hyundai Kona
Hyundai Kona
EV.
yeah.
And they're all three
Right.
of them are here. So
Right.
there's your David.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let's move on to some of the bigger vehicles that were debuted here, and let's start with the Hyundai Palisade. This is an all-new 3-row SUV. It's a little bit bigger than the Santa Fe XL, and it's pretty bold styling and really nice interior too. A very simple to use one-touch second row seat operation to get into the third row.
That's
Gabe,
terrific.
what do you think of this thing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Palisade has a really strong presence on the road. That grille, that chunky
Huge
seat
grille.
pillar, but more importantly, the details inside and the access to the third row seat. I mean, the button that you press on top or at the bottom for a little kid that has a hard time
What's so
reaching
cool is
up.
you just touch it. And then it does it all for you. You don't have to keep touching it or anything.
And they know their
It
market.
slides and
Yeah.
it
And gives you a
tilts
lot of room
and
to get
gives
in.
you a nice footpath to
Right.
get in there. Also, they have a dedicated spot for the rear cargo cover under
Yeah.
the cargo floor in the back. So a lot of nice details. One thing I'm a little dismayed about is the gear selector, which is a push button thing that
we're usually not fans of those. I sat in the back row, the third row, and there's plenty of headroom, but the seat is pretty low. I'm sure to get that headroom. It seems to me they could have had the seat a little higher. In this case, it causes quite a bit of knee bend, and the armrests back there are just hard plastic. So it's kind of a little bit of a bummer. But otherwise, it seems like it's going to be a really nice
It's for
vehicle.
carpooling.
Yeah.
You put the neighbor's kids back there.
It seems like a strong competitor to a Highlander and a Pilot.
Totally think so.
I also, one last thing about it,
Yeah.
I love the fact with the audio system, they give you the sleep mode so you can listen up front
Right.
and shut off all the speakers in the back so the kids can stay asleep.
Yeah.
Or you can, like in some of the minivans you've seen, you can actually talk to the people in the back row with a microphone, like you play bus driver.
Yep.
Hey, stop, leave your brother alone.
All right.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Lincoln Aviator that was debuted here. This is a vehicle that they, have shown as a concept a couple times, and this is a new rear-wheel drive architecture for them that we think is probably also going to serve the next Ford Explorer, although Ford hasn't, officially said that yet. But that's what we think is going to happen. And this is another vehicle with some presence. What did you get a chance to take a look at the Aviator?
I got a little time with it. It feels like the most solid effort from Lincoln in a long time, and sort of some of the chatter I've seen on Twitter and other places, people are saying, oh, it's an American luxury SUV that isn't the Navigator or the Escalade, that isn't a giant full size.
Right. It's in between what's going to be called the Nautilus, the Lincoln Nautilus, and the full-size Navigator.
Yeah, and we don't know pricing on it, but it's probably going to be more expensive than the Grand Cherokee, less expensive than a Range Rover. But the thing that I think really matters is, does the Lincoln brand have enough cachet with buyers in order to get them to pay that premium for that SUV? Because I think people are buying a Navigator because it's a Navigator, not because it's a Lincoln.
Well, one of the coolest things about it, though, is that you can get this Grand Touring version, which is a plug-in hybrid with 450 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. What do you think of that thing, Gabe?
That's going to lend itself very nicely to towing. Not that the standard engine is short on towing ability. And I think that might cannibalize into Navigator sales because that Aviator looks so much better and it's so much more contemporary than the clumsy Navigator.
Yet you still have, it seems like as nice of an interior as you have in the Navigator, so you're really not losing
really
anything.
swanky.
Yeah. Let's move on. A little smaller, the Honda Passport. This is based on the Honda Pilot, but instead of being a 3-row SUV, it's a 2-row SUV, and they kind of went more of a rugged look for it. They're trying to kind of say that it has more off-road capabilities. It has a little less, a rear overhang and an inch more ground clearance. Are you buying the off-roadiness of this, Gabe? Or?
Not entirely. I mean, they want to really have a connection to Honda's power equipment and ATVs, and they think that they're losing customers to the likes of Jeep Grand Cherokee and Toyota 4Runner. But I think it's more of a competitor to a Ford Edge and Nissan Murano, and most of them are not going to care one bit about off-road ability. They just want a 2-row SUV that's roomy, that isn't a stalker mobile like the Pilot, and larger than the CR-V.
Anecdotally, I've heard a lot of people tell me, out there who really aren't into cars, who are just shopping, and they say, "Well, I really like the Pilot and I like Hondas, but the CR-V is too small and the Pilot's too big."
Right.
And honestly, I've sat in the back seat of both of them, and in the back seat of the Passport. There's plenty of room.
Passport is plenty of room, and you're right. The Pilot does feel big. It especially feels big for the driver when you're driving it, and so maybe this one will feel a little more nimble. Maybe.
Yeah, people love their SUVs and crossovers now, and I guess might as well give folks another one. And while gas prices are cheap and people are buying them.
Right. Well, let's move on to something a little different. The 2020 Jeep Gladiator. Now, this is basically a Wrangler Unlimited pickup. It has a 5-foot pickup bed. And I mean, this is something that has been talked about for a while, and finally the production version is here. Keith, I'll start with you. What do you think of this?
I mean, it's hard to come up with an original thought about it because we've been anticipating it for so long. Yeah. So it's like it's finally here. It's like the NSX. It's one of those cars that just, oh, there it is. I mean, there it is. It's right behind us. I think, it's cool. The cool factor is there. I think it'll sell. I think it's probably pretty easy for them to make it. It gets a lot of buzz for the Wrangler, for the Jeep brand. The Jeep brand is hot. I think who's going to buy one?
That's the question. I mean, it's still going to drive almost for sure like a Wrangler, which means it's not going to be a very good on-road vehicle. It'll have amazing off-road abilities. Who do you see buying this thing, Gabe?
Yeah, that matters less than the fact that it has all that Jeep cachet. And the category of midsize pickup truck is starting to resurrect with the Colorado and Ranger and whatnot.
And this gives FCA a dog in the fight.
Exactly. I mean, FCA could have done another Dakota, but I mean, who would care about that?
Right.
You know, you just take the Wrangler.
They'd have to call it the Rakota because it's the Dodge, the alliteration, it's gone.
So you turn the Wrangler into a pickup truck, and you have an instant hit there.
Right. 285 horsepower, 6-cylinder, or a 260 horsepower turbo diesel 6-cylinder. 8-speed automatic, and still you can get it with a 6-speed manual on sale in the spring of 2019.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some kind of notable mentions, cars that don't quite fit into our David and Goliath theme, but I think are still very important to CR readers and to us as well. Let's start with the BMW 3 Series. Gabe, I know you're a big fan of the brand. Tell us about the new 3 Series and what people can expect from it.
So new BMW 3 Series is it's another generation of sports sedan icon, and it's more technologically advanced. It's the interior is much nicer, much more sophisticated. The iDrive infotainment system is another iteration, another generation of it. So we can expect a pretty strong competitor. First out is the M340i, and then other more mainstream versions will roll.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty anxious to drive it already.
It's exciting because the 3 Series has been for a long time kind of the go-to compact car for people who really are into driving, and hopefully that's still going to remain the same.
And with the last generation, it lost a little bit of its handling agility and gave way to cars like the Alfa Giulia and the Jaguar. What is it, F-Type, or you're the Jaguar?
The XE.
Yeah, the XE, exactly.
He has one.
The Stellar XE.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, BMW claims that they kind of got that back, but we'll be the judges.
Let's move on to another icon. I mean, when you talk about icons, you talk about the Porsche 911. And so they had the brand new Porsche 911 here. A couple interesting things. The 911 now going forwards will be all turbocharged engines, so there's no more naturally aspirated engines like they've had in the past. Still a 6-cylinder. Here, they didn't talk about the base model, they talked about the Carrera S, which has 443 horsepower, so it's pretty powerful. You can still get it with a manual transmission, which is very important. Keith, what do you think of the car?
Well, I was hoping you weren't going to call on me for this one. I've been doing that. I've been doing all the Davids, none of the Goliaths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll turn it over to our.
No, I will say, I was the inside of the car. That black plastic, that
kind of like the Cayenne, right?
Yeah, and I think that takes away from a lot of the sort of driver-focused experience. The design is there, but I don't think people buy a 911 in order to get a ton of touchscreens in their face.
Right.
And I think that takes a bit away from it. So I think that was, it might be in line with where they're going as far as their infotainment design language is concerned. But I think it's a distraction.
Yeah, Gabe,
So,
what do you think? I know you're a big fan of the 911.
Yeah, I am indeed, and it's another evolution of the 911. I mean, it's taking the 911 to a much more upmarket kind of place. I mean, this is going to be like a $120,000 car.
Yeah.
So you're going to see less manual transmissions, more automatics, nicer interior.
People buying them as investments.
More creature comforts, but a 911's a 911. It's a timepiece.
Let's get to probably the biggest question that I think everyone's going to be asking, and for sure I'm asking. Gabe, are we going to buy one for our test fleet?
We're going to have to really think about that. I think there is an expectation there that if it's a Corvette or a 911, we're probably going to test it. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I hope so. All right, let's move on to one more car, the Audi e-Tron GT concept. Keith, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you covered this car.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this all-electric car from Audi.
So this is one of the first real serious Tesla competitors.
Right. It's still a concept.
It's still a concept, but it is based on so there are two e-Trons now. There's the e-Tron, which is actually going to go on sale, which we saw earlier. The e-Tron GT is a sedan, and it looks amazing. It has a tremendous amount of presence. It's basically the Porsche Taycan sedan in a slightly different form. Fast charging, a whole new fast charging network that's coming up, that's funded by Volkswagen as part of the Dieselgate settlement.
Right.
And that's going to give
Electrify America.
Exactly. It's going to give all the other EVs that are coming out basically something, an equivalent to the Tesla supercharger network.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to be a car that's really going to catch a lot of, depending upon how it's priced, it's not a mass market car, but it's really cool. And I think that it's one of the cars that I heard the most chatter about at the show.
590 horsepower, all-wheel drive. They're saying a range of around 250 miles. Gabe, I'll give you the final word on this car.
It looks gorgeous, and it's going to probably drive wonderfully. The interior is going to be gorgeous, and it's going to be a really serious challenger to a Tesla Model S. Finally, it's like in the mold of that kind of four-door coupe configuration, and it looks sexy, and it's going to be a guilt-free, no emission, all-wheel drive. So what's not to like here?
Okay. All right, before we wrap it up here, guys, regardless of any car we've already talked about, I want to hear your favorite cars from the show.
All right, so I can actually see my favorite. It's right over there. It's the Rivian. It's a new pickup truck. It's electric. A new SUV. It's electric. And it kind of gives it's sort of, it's a startup company, but the idea of an electric pickup truck doesn't have quite the the range of something like a, souped up Model X, but it allows you to kind of tread lightly if you're going to be doing tasks, outside. I could see like the National Park Service buying it.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. We've heard a lot about it, and it would be interesting to see another startup car company succeed.
That's what I was going to say. It'll be really interesting. It's still a couple years out before they're saying they're going to have a production version, but it will be interesting to see, can they really make it happen? So, Gabe, let's go to you. What was your favorite car?
Yeah, I usually like to have a favorite car that's a real car. It's a real production car, but I can't help it. But the Audi e-Tron GT is my favorite car.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Why not?
Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna, I like to give more for everyone's money, so I'm gonna go with two cars on opposite ends of the spectrum. I love the new 911. I think it looks fantastic. I love how they continue to evolve that shape, but it still always looks like a 911. And I really love the way the new Mazda 3 hatchback looks. I don't care if you guys keep me out on my island, but I thought that car looks fantastic. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you want to learn more about the cars we talked about today, you can click on the links in the show notes. And don't forget to send those questions, comments, and 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.